What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Corner Flag Convos and Chips. My name is Brian. Let the guys introduce themselves real quick.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Shevin. How's it going?
Hey guys, it's Michael. I hope everything went well for you over the Christmas season and you have a very good new year. Hopefully, COVID goes away this year.
Hey, it's Omari here, a Canadian specialist. Hope you guys had a great holiday season and are having a wonderful new year. Let's go.
Indeed. Happy New Year, guys, and happy New Year to everyone listening as well. So today we're going to be talking about a little bit of transfer rumor roundup, I guess, and let's start out with, naming the players that we're going to be looking at. So first off, I'm going to go with Upamecano. Who are you guys looking at?
For me, I I just want to start off and say that the reason I didn't wish anybody a happy New Year is because Barcelona is not having the greatest of New Years, or it doesn't look like it'll be a good year. So it's not exactly a happy New Year.
Salt.
Having a good 3 years or so. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is supposed to be a
it's been a
norm.
little stretch. It's been a little stretch. The player I plan to focus on for this transfer section though is Memphis Depay.
Okay, the player that I'll be looking at is Angel Di Maria, the Angel. So yeah,
Okay, and I'll be looking at the Man United outcast, Jesse Lingard.
Wait, what? What? Jesse Lingard?
Yes,
It's,
sir.
I'm not gonna say
You
nothing.
heard right.
I'm just gonna listen when when you speak.
Yes, please do. Please listen.
I'm looking forward to that section as well. That's going to be interesting. That's a very
I can't believe you chose to go last. Like now I'm kind of disappointed.
That's saving the best for last. Saving the best for last. But okay, so let's get started real quick. I guess I'll go first. So as I said, I'm looking at or bringing to the table, I guess, Daya Upamecano. I hope I'm pronouncing his first name right. But basically, what we're looking at is a 6'1", very athletic, versatile player that can play in a back three or a back four. Very fast, able to contain some of the fastest of players in the Bundesliga, as he's proven game in, game out. The player's made great strides in terms of cleaning up his overall game for Leipzig since he decided to join. He was involved in 2.8 fouls per game on average in his debut season in the 2016-2017 season for Leipzig. But has taken those numbers down to about a pretty tidy, I would say, 0.8 per game game this season. He's also a very good passer of the ball, with a player with him averaging around 91% of a pass success percentage. I clearly can't talk today. As of the 2019-20 season, so that makes him pretty good. Like when it comes to playing out from the back. Which makes him a great option for teams that are looking to make a transfer for a center back in the transfer window going forward. So this season, he also averages 1.1 tackles and 1.3 interceptions per game. He overall has a powerful and clean play, which makes him a good option for teams looking to shore up a defensive partnership for the long term, because he's also fairly young. His contract runs until 2023 as of now, which will make him pricey this summer. As he's already worth around $66 million per transfer market. But there's a few possible destinations. The first of which that's been touted is Liverpool. But the list goes basically Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, Bayern, and PSG. Of those, at least in my opinion, the only two that make sense are Liverpool and Bayern Munich. Liverpool, in my books, makes the most sense, mainly due to Van Dijk's long-term injury. And eventually he could become a quite good partner for the Netherlands international and form a pretty strong partnership. Bayern also look like a very likely destination, mainly because he's a talented player in the Bundesliga, and we know how much they love talented players from the Bundesliga. And they have quite a few aging center backs in Jerome Boateng and Javi Martinez, both of which have been linked with moves for years now, especially Martinez, with rumors indicating that he'll be allowed to leave on a free. And in addition, it also looks like David Alaba is on his way out of the club, with Real Madrid lurking in the wings, I guess, which will, in my opinion, leave a big gap for the Bavarians to fill. So, Mike, I wanted to start with you. What do you think about this one? What do you think about Upamecano going to Bayern?
I think it would be a welcome signing. Bayern, as you know, we have major defensive frailties. And I think with the high line that we actually play, Upamecano's pace would actually help us out a lot. In addition to this, Upamecano has very underrated attacking skills as well. He can dribble the ball into midfield, which is a skill that you can actually use to break certain lines up for when you have teams actually playing the double block and very compact. So you could actually bring a midfielder up to help support the attack, which is creates an overload. And you know, Bayern, we love overloads, and so it would actually help us a lot. In addition, with his pace, he can actually cover for some of the fullbacks that we have going farther up the field, which is very important. And yeah, it would work out as a very good signing for Bayern. And I really think that we would actually pull the trigger. I heard that Liverpool aren't looking to buy anything within this early part of the window. And I think when Virgil van Dijk comes back, I don't think they would actually be tempted to force for any player. So it's all a wait and see game, but he would improve Bayern significantly.
Well, I'm going to agree with Phil on this one. I think that Upamecano to Bayern would be a welcome move, especially given the primary reason he stated. That pace is definitely needed at the back line, as we've seen in some of Bayern's latest games, especially getting caught out on the counter. Now, you could attribute that to maybe some lapses in midfield and the inability or unavailability of the fullbacks to get back and provide support. But at the same time, having a pacier centre back certainly couldn't hurt. And as we've seen from his performances in the Champions League last season and currently as well, he's good on the ball, seems to have a level head on him. And I think he'd fit right in with the winning culture that Bayern has.
Is this the summer that his release clause is 62 million euros, or is that next summer? Oh,
40.
40. 40?
Yeah,
Oh my God. Is it this summer?
yeah, it's actually this coming summer.
Oh shit. He's gonna be incredibly coveted at that price then. It's gonna be a massive bidding war. And I feel like, Brian mentioned some teams that realistically can afford him, but honestly, 40 million euros is not a big ask. So I think for a player his quality, I think any club looking for a top tier centre back should throw their hat in. So it's good. I feel like it's gonna come down to a bidding war and who's gonna present the more promising project to him. And of course, playing in Germany for so long for his career, I could only imagine that Bayern Munich seems like the most attractive option right now.
Definitely.
I think even if he moves to England, he may need to learn a new language and so on, and that sometimes is complicated for persons. I think this is his third year in Germany, so like with this now on the table, he could prolong his time in Germany. I think he would have learned German by now, so it would all work out very well for him, and he'd live the high life basically with Bayern. So it would be cool. Again, we have to wait and see. And the thing is that with the qualities that he has, he can become a mainstay in Bayern for some time. So it would be good for him. But we have to wait and see.
I actually wasn't aware of that release clause. That actually makes it, as you guys said, a bit more of a bidding war for him come this summer for sure. But as you guys have already mentioned, for sure, Bayern definitely seem like a good option for him. As much as it hurts me to say, but it's true. He would definitely fit what they're looking for in terms of a center back to replace the ones that seem to be outgoing. And as I mentioned before, losing the likes of Alaba is going to be tough for them. And I think that Upamecano will be a good fit to replace him. That being said, I guess we can go on to the next player.
Yeah, so I decided to focus on Memphis Depay because he's in an interesting situation with Lyon right now, where he hasn't renewed his contract and he had a quite heavily rumored and mentioned transfer to Barcelona in the summer and for January as well. I'm not just mentioning this because he is linked to Barcelona, because I will say that the links to Barcelona are no longer as strong as they once were, due to the emergence of Pedri and the continued fitness of Ousmane Dembele and the impending return of Ansu Fati. I feel like the club is, and also just the sheer financial handicap that the club is going through right now. I don't expect them to make a play for Memphis Depay right now. Maybe in the summer as a free agent, but he's a fantastic player for his price tag, and I know a lot of people have quite a few doubts about him because of his ill-fated spell at Manchester United. But there were too many things around that Manchester United team that weren't perfect for you to solely lay it down to Depay. not being a good enough player or not being talented enough. Just looking at his record for Lyon, he's actually been fantastic. In 158 appearances for Lyon, he has 65 goals and 48 assists. Now, I understand a lot of people are going to say that's the French league and everything like the sort, but Lyon isn't exactly the biggest name in the French league, and they've had their struggles. Whereas last season they even finished seventh, but they went all the way to the Champions League semifinal, and Depay was a huge part of that with his performances against Juventus and Manchester City, especially. So he's a fantastic addition to any squad, and like I, I keep mentioning, he would be free in the summer. He can play a variety of positions. He can play as a center forward, left winger, or right winger, and then he even has showed competence in playing as a central link man in behind another striker. So, because this year he would have played with Carl Toko Ekambi and Moussa Dembele, who's on his way to Atletico Madrid. So with the departure of Moussa Dembele, you can kind of feel like time is ticking for this Lyon squad. Like it held on to its stars for an additional season, but I feel like this is it now for them. Dembele is gone. Depay is about to leave on a free, and then Alwar might soon be next. So for any club who's looking for an attacking player, I can think of Arsenal having to replace Willian or having a great person to back up to push Bukayo Saka for competition. Barcelona, like I said, could always use somebody of his talent. Anyone in general who's looking for an attacking player, if Manchester United don't land Jadon Sancho like they've been trying to all this time, why not bring Depay back one to try it again on the right hand side? Anybody, anybody at this point is better than Dan James. So I think he'd be a fantastic addition to any squad. His age makes sense. He's recovered from that major injury setback that he had recently, so he looks like he's going to be good value for any amount of wage you pay him. And I think more clubs should be focusing on Memphis Depay.
For sure. And I mean, he's definitely very much a success story. Like you mentioned, you can't really judge him on his time at Man U. He's definitely bounced back and obviously, scored the goals and put up the numbers that make him or that show that he is a quality player. But, obviously, as you mentioned, there are pretty big links to Barcelona. But I was just going to say, like, could you elaborate on where you think exactly he would actually play? Because the whole thing with Depay is, and this is something that I had to look into last summer as well, because there was heavy links to Dortmund if Sancho were to go to United. And there's a lot of speculation around whether or not he can actually, or not that he can't play on the wings, but he personally does not like to play on the wings. So if you're trying to keep that player happy, you would expect him to play somewhere centrally. So who would he exactly replace, do you think?
Well, for the Dutch national team, he has played centrally, so I understand what you're saying. Let's say in a situation that I see most likely is where Lionel Messi does depart Barcelona this summer, um, that would move Ousmane Dembele to the right hand side. That would leave Antoine Griezmann or Ansu Fati on the left hand side, and then you can have Depay playing through the middle. I still think there's enough interchangeability in that front three where no player, not necessarily just because they start there at the beginning of the game, means they're going to be fixed to that position. Because Dembele is quite two-footed. Griezmann is a smart enough player who likes to come inside. Fati is the same thing too because he did play as a striker in his cadet days. So I think it's not so much about where they start the game; it's just having a forward who can interchange with the other two forwards, who's good enough with both feet, who has that change of pace to get in behind. And Depay is also very good at linking play and bringing others into the attack. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him start on the right hand side or left hand side, drop into the middle, and then pass balls onto Fati or Dembele running in behind. So if Messi does stay, it does become like a logjam in front because now you're also expecting Coutinho to have some minutes because he'll be back from his injury by then. But like I said, in a world where I do think Messi leaving is more likely than him staying right now. So not necessarily a replacement because obviously there is no replacement for him, but he would add something different to the attack. But Dortmund again could make another run for him if Sancho does depart. Like I said, United could give him a try. And if Chelsea have feelings about playing Hakim Ziyech more in the central positions, then Depay would be an excellent right winger for them to open up space. But again, as a free transfer, I think you'd be hard pressed to find a player who can add an immediate assistance to your goal scoring options than Depay.
Personally believe that he would be a good fit for Everton because they actually need somebody on the right, and with his goal scoring prowess, he could actually help out a lot. In addition to that, Spurs should also monitor his situation because the wingers that we actually have on the right haven't been that well in supporting Kane and Son. Well, Borgwijn has been playing very good, but he isn't getting like from him. So yeah, but the Pi situation is a very intriguing one. I believe that a lot of times at United he was prosecuted for things that he could not control. Van Gaal's system favored more defensive capable players, and he was not going to defend. So like with all of that combined with the fact that the emergence of Rashford and so on, it complicated things a lot for him. And United were all about spending a lot of money. So they brought in people like Alexis Sanchez, and his transfer did not work out. And even before him, they brought in Di Maria, and again, that didn't necessarily work out for him. So I'm very happy for Depay. So I just hope that he finds a top tier club that he could actually settle in with. Dortmund isn't a bad shout, but he should be more ambitious than that.
Before before Brian obviously replies to that, Barb, I just wanted to say that you do have a point about about things at Manchester United, because one of the things that a lot of people around Leon have mentioned about Rudy Garcia is that Rudy Garcia lets Depay be Depay, and it's key to understand that Depay comes with a certain level of off the field. I wouldn't say antics, but he has a strong aura, and he has a very spiky personality. Spiky in the sense that he's very enigmatic and very independent. And one thing that Louis Van Gaal tried to do too much was micromanage him and who he was off the pitch and his activities off the pitch. Whereas Rudy Garcia just lets Depay be Depay off the a field as long as he channels his best on the football field. So that's something to consider as well too. I don't think he'd do well under an authoritarian type of coach. You know, somebody who apparently Ronald Koeman tends to be like in a dressing room. He's somebody who's very my way or the highway. So I don't know, but you know they have a very good relationship at the national team level. So maybe Koeman doesn't understand him at a level like that. And Ancelotti, you know, Michael brought up Everton, so I'll go further with that. Ancelotti's kind of the perfect manager for a guy with a situation like that. Ancelotti's more known for a guy who's just like let the players go out there and play. So he knows where his strength is managing egos and managing expectations of players and keeping players happy. So I could see Depay doing really well under a manager like Ancelotti, who knows how to put his arm around his shoulder and really guide him and draw the best out of him on the football field.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna jump in before Brian. Um, having
I said, man,
listened
no
to
comment.
okay, having listened to everything you guys have laid out prior, in my opinion, I'd actually put Dortmund high up on the list, despite what Phil said, because it seems to be at this point that Sancho is most likely on the way out, and Depay seems to be the most fitting replacement for him. And that would also be an opportunity for him to go somewhere where he's not necessarily expected to carry the team, as there's already, a good squad there. Things aren't necessarily on the up and up, as you can see that Dortmund is kind of plateaued currently. But I think that's a good opportunity for him to prove to everyone that he's still, prove the doubters wrong, prove that he's still quality. And I don't think he's going to be going to, as Shevin mentioned, a manager that's going to be too focused on his image or all the other stuff that is going on around him. Now, as for the Barcelona possibility, I'd say that's actually a pretty good option, um, especially if Messi does leave come the end of the season. But my only concern is that at Barcelona, especially given Barcelona's current circumstances and obviously the prestige of the club, that's a heavy shirt to wear. And for Depay, especially given his stint at Manchester United, I am quite apprehensive of, well, at least in terms of my expectations of him at Barcelona. I've seen several ways that he can fit into that team, but and even though Coleman, well, should be familiar with him as a Dutch player, I'm not too sure exactly how it's gonna work and if he's gonna be able to live up to what will be expected of him once he puts on that Barcelona shirt. So, in my opinion, is Dortmund in pole position, Barcelona in second, and I'll have to give a special mention to Everton as well, because as was mentioned before also, Ancelotti is that kind of manager that's gonna be able to handle him pretty well. There's certainly a spot on that squad for him there. And I believe as well with the play style that Everton currently employs, it's definitely gonna suit his tendency to be predicated on his attack and not necessarily have to run back too much on defense. I think he should work at Everton, and there wouldn't be any super expectations as you would see on Barcelona or even Dortmund. So I think that's also a good option for him. Not too sure about Tottenham though. That seemed kind of left field for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I agree with everything you guys have already said for the most part. I think, especially the fact that he's on a free transfer. I think most teams would be crazy not to, at least give him a shot. But obviously going to the Dortmund option there, definitely not a bad option if Sancho leaves. I was actually quite excited when he was linked, and it actually kind of smoothed everything over that if Sancho were to leave last summer and we did get Depay, then it wouldn't be that bad. That being said, you guys mentioned the coaching situation, and it's really unsure right now who's going to end up being the coach at Dortmund going forward. I highly doubt Terzic is going to stay, full term and end up carrying the team like for years to come. But the names, being put into the hat, Jesse Marsh, Marco Rose. I don't know about Rose personally, what he's like in the dressing room specifically, but I've heard Jesse Marsh can really alienate players. So if that ends up being the option, then I don't know if that will work out too well, simply because, as I've said, I've heard on multiple occasions that Jesse Marsh kind of seems to be the kind of my way or the highway type of coach. If something isn't going his way, it's something that to be considered. If that person were to become Dortmund's head coach. With Rose, like I said, I'm not exactly sure what sort of man management he has. He does seem more like a Klopp-esque type figure, armor on the shoulder, more understanding type. From the little that I've seen of, I guess, his interaction with players, because I don't follow Gladbach all that closely. But yeah, maybe that might be a good option. Everton also, like you guys said, seems to be a pretty good shout as well. But yeah, well, I guess we'll see come the summer where exactly ends up. I'm sure whatever team that gets him will be happy with, or more than likely will be happy with what they get. That being, yeah. So we can go on to the next player.
So the player that I wanted to make a mention of is actually Angel Di Maria. So Angel's contract comes to end in the summer of 2021, which is this year. And I do believe there is still great value to be have out of him. For instance, a lot of persons again may play on the part and say that Paris Saint-Germain is basically uh, the harder in the Farmers League. But Di Maria as a player has produced great numbers throughout his entire career. This includes the stints at Real Madrid and even the Manchester United, where he actually had 3 goals and 10 assists during the season that he was considered a flop. But Manchester United, they consider good players a flop because their team is actually the real flop. But that's something for a different day. However, there is value to be have out of him, and he also comes at a very low price. So I believe that you a team like Arsenal, who is financially static, to the lack of better word, can actually go ahead and sign him on a free. Arsenal has a major problem in their midfield as it lacks creativity. And with great irony, in true Arsenal fashion, they have actually released their most creative midfielder. But again, that's a story for another day. But I must say that within that, Di Maria also offers some amount in defense. When you actually check his Champions League statistics during this season, he's actually averaging 1.6 tackles. This is actually doubling what Kieran Tierney does as it relates to tackle, who is averaging currently at zero point 0.7. So with those type of statistics, I do believe that he would actually help to solve two problems. We should be very aware of his defensive exploits during his period at Real Madrid, whereby he used to basically control the entire midfield. And that led Real Madrid to their first Champions League title. And I do believe the caliber of player that Di Maria is, he can lead Arsenal to title, which is something that they don't necessarily want. That is why I'm very happy that he's 32. So he wouldn't actually be giving them his best years, but the half-hearted years of the basically the twilight of his career.
So the whole Di Maria thing to Arsenal or Tottenham is a little bit confusing for me. Like, granted, obviously you've said, he's a great player. He's been a great player throughout his career. But I have to think that it reminds me more of kind of just like a Willian situation for Arsenal, simply in the sense that, you're getting another aged player to come in. I'm not doubting his quality. He's done it for PSG. He's done it for Real Madrid. But like you said, he'd be getting his half-hearted years. Like, why would a club like Arsenal that's already struggling the way that they are struggling invest more money in trying to bring in a player that's in the twilight years of his career, that may not have much more to give? That was basically why they were criticized for bringing in Willian in the first place. What do you guys think?
I just want to weigh in. I just want to wait before you go. I just want to weigh in and say that Brian is right in saying that Willian is a humongous problem for Arsenal right now. He's just garbage, and I was one person that thought this Willian signing would have been a good signing just because he would have brought years of experience and talent with him, and his desire to win something more. As far as Di Maria, he's going to be 33 years old. Number two, he hasn't played as that box-to-box midfielder since that 2013 season at Real Madrid. So you're asking for 2014. So that's over 7 years ago now. So he's not the same player he was back then. Even at PSG, he has refused to do any sort of defensive work. Not that he needs to do anything like that. His importance is greater on the attacking side of the pitch. But he's not the same all-action player that he used to be, going up and down from box to box. He's much more of a creative hub that floats in the half spaces on the right hand side or comes centrally. And to answer your question, yes, Arsenal does need a world class creative midfielder if they want to be serious about contending for titles. I don't think that's served by spending money on or wages on a 33-year-old Di Maria when you have Emil Smith Rowe. I rather just play Emil Smith Rowe. I know he's not the same caliber of player even as the current version of Di Maria is. But like I said, are you really gonna shell out 300,000 a week for another guy who's not gonna give us his best? Like we're having this issue with Willian right now. At this point in time, I rather just focus on developing Emil Smith Rowe and Saka, and then possibly finding somebody else in the market. Maybe take another run at Alwar or another attacking player who's on the market that's much younger. But I do personally disagree that he's what Arsenal need, and I do disagree that he's still the same sort of player he was when Madrid won that first Ancelotti Champions League.
I have to agree.
The whole thing.
Just before you guys go ahead, I must state that the reality with Di Maria is that he's coming for free. So the situation with Arsenal's type of recruitment practices of young players is to pay extremely over what they actually value, Pepe, and then they go ahead and they basically flop. So, and I do believe that they flop because there isn't any presence within the dressing room for actually successful players. When you look at Arsenal's dressing room, there isn't any champions winners or anything inside the team. You got, and the reality with Willian's transfer too is that Willian statistically was trash, and Chelsea people know that he was trash, and that is why no one understand why Arsenal bought Willian. It made absolutely no sense. So when you speak about these sort of things, the situation with Di Maria would give a lot. And Di Maria has, well, I think a chip on his shoulder from his time at United to actually prove that he can actually do these things within the Premier League. As it relates to Di Maria not being able to play box to box, the reality is that PSG is actually somewhat loaded within the central midfield positions. and they don't really have any proper additional right-sided player. That is why Di Maria ends up filling in that space. But Di Maria has played several times in midfield for PSG, mostly in the attacking half. So I do believe that those are qualities, and the situation is not like the reality with Di Maria. If you look at PSG games, there isn't a need for him to be too defensive. But that is why I brought to the full Champions League stats, which show that he's actually averaging 1.6 tackles per game. So if you're going to say that, oh, you know what, Di Maria isn't defensive, how can he average so high tackles per game?
Once again, I mean, I see what you're saying, and obviously, like I said before, you can't really doubt his quality. If you're bringing him in, I guess, as a mentor type figure to the players that Arsenal already has, then I guess that makes sense, because you're saying, like you said, that there isn't anyone with that mentality in the locker room. But as a starter, as someone that's going to save Arsenal's season, or next season bring them to another level, I don't see that happening at this point in time. Definitely maybe as a mentor figure, but also the wages would have to be reasonable, number right now as well. You can't be bringing in a 32, borderline 33-year-old player on extremely high wages, to a club like Arsenal that's really just trying to find its feet, and it has a bunch of young attackers that basically be stifling. That's kind of what I feel like with the Tottenham link as well. You have a really talented Steven Bergwijn that can play on the wings. You don't really want to have a player like Di Maria come in and expect to play and stifle someone like Bergwijn and in their development as well, especially because he's injured, or he's been injured quite a few times already as well. The kid needs as much time as he can on the field, and I don't know, I wouldn't do it personally.
You see with Spurs, they have Bergwijn and Lucas Moura, and I think Bergwijn is a very talented player. I don't think Lucas Moura is a very talented player, and Bergwijn might just be going through a rough patch, or whatever he is at the moment, or his expectations of what Mourinho has for him are not what he's bringing to the pitch. A player like Di Maria makes sense in that squad, where he can. First of all, he's a player Mourinho has worked with before, so Mourinho understands him, and he understands Mourinho, and he knows exactly what a manager like Mourinho demands. Whereas at Arsenal, I'll be quite realistic. Where Tottenham are and where Arsenal are at different phases, Tottenham is closer to competing for a Premier League title than Arsenal is right now. And Di Maria is not a needle mover in the sense that he'll completely push you over the edge. Whereas a team like Arsenal needs a lot more than a team like Spurs need. And I don't think particularly the Di Maria would be the answer for that. It was, number one, stunt the growth of a player like Emile Smith-Rowe. And for us, developing youngsters right now is a little bit more important than for Spurs, because, like I said, Spurs are closest to the destination that we both want to be. Whereas Spurs, they need that guy who can decide a game like the West Ham game or a game like the Wolves game, where the score is locked or the situation is tough, and they can have a player come off the bench and create that individual moment of brilliance, and that'll push them towards a title charge. Whereas for Arsenal, like Brian pointed out and I pointed out earlier, there's too much tied up with a player like Willian. I would love the transfer if we didn't have Willian already, but the issue is Willian. He's there, and the optics of it don't look great. Bringing in another 32-plus-year-old player on high wages, play the same position as Pepe, who the club have been very impatient with, who the fans have been very impatient with, doesn't send a good message all around. And like I said, I personally don't think Di Maria puts that same 2014 display daily anymore, or even at all. Maybe a game here and there, but the ambitions for Arsenal are a little different right now in the short term. So I have to be honest with myself with that. And I think it's too much money to commit to a player that doesn't necessarily change our situation in the immediacy.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, and I'm gonna pivot everything I'm saying on base everything I'm saying on two things: phases and expectations. And definitely, if you compare Tottenham's situation to Arsenal's situation, Tottenham simply just needs a few more bricks over the foundation. Arsenal right now has to probably throw away a few bricks, redig the ground, and sort out that foundation. And Willian definitely is a big part of their problems. And then yes, obviously a special mention to Pepe, because well, one, he's had his difficulties. They've spent the money on him, and obviously he hasn't panned out. So then bringing in a guy like Di Maria, paying him all that money, definitely isn't going to be a good look for the fans, and is going to weigh heavily on the team. I think, given the tenacity and promise that a lot of the youths coming through Arsenal have shown, I think it would be best to give them the room to play, give them the necessary opportunities, and bring in a guy like Di Maria in hopes that he would give you that kind of 2014 electricity and take Arsenal over the top. Nah, the glass is half empty right now at Arsenal. So a guy like Di Maria isn't going to give you that extra that they're looking for. Maybe if Willian wasn't there, you could say it would be a welcome addition. Again, not an addition that would take them over the top, but certainly a welcome one. But yeah, that's you should definitely strike Arsenal off the list. I could definitely see him working at Tottenham, given that Tottenham, in my opinion, as was mentioned, he's worked with before with Jose Mourinho, and there are more spaces and flexibility for him to fit in that Tottenham setup that don't necessarily exist at Arsenal. I don't think he would be blocking any major players from playing opportunities. And given that Tottenham will be playing European football as well as the very busy calendar in England, I'm sure there would be ample opportunities for a player of his caliber.
In closing, I must add, and again, I stress this, Di Maria would play more of an attacking midfield, central midfield position. If you look at Arsenal, how they're set up, they're currently playing a 3-3-4. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the situation is that within the midfield, there is no creativity, literally no creativity. Willian was a very poor signing again, as I said before, because Willian is not a good winger. He doesn't have the legs to play on the wing, and it creates a situation whereby, due to his age and so on, he becomes a defensive liability. Pepe was supposed to be playing on the wing, but again, when you look at Arsenal midfield, there is no real creativity, and that is why I suggested that Di Maria would be an ample signing for them. In addition to that, they do not have any figure that you could actually look to as leader. For crying out loud, Granit Xhaka is their captain. So they would actually need somebody to actually look up to. And that is where Di Maria again comes along. And I believe if you look at it, the lack of creativity in Arsenal is actually significantly hampering Aubameyang's is productivity within the attack. And things so bad at Arsenal that they decided to play Lacazette within the midfield. In addition, if you look at the finances of a deal for getting a free agent player like Di Maria, it should not be too staggering. I don't think Di Maria would look at his career and say that he wants a wage increase. And there would be cuts to his wages because that's just the frankness of the market. But if Arsenal decides to go and get a world class midfielder, they would have to pay about $40 million. And I don't think Di Maria makes more than about $7 to $10 million a year. So if you go and pay $40 million, you would still need to pay the wages of this creative midfielder that you actually have. So the optics of it would actually cost less with bringing in a free agent.
It would cost less, but I don't know. In my opinion, it'd be still a short-term fix because you'd be looking for his replacement fairly quickly. But
No,
that's
but one thing though, but they need sharp solutions. If you look at the reason why they don't have money is because they're not in the Champions League. And that is basically sucking the life out of them. And it's been too long for them to not be in the Champions League. I think Di Maria would give them enough to get them into the Champions League, but that's just how I feel about it because I think the Arsenal team defensively, it has been solidified. If you look at Thomas fills a hole that they had in their midfield. They're one player short, in my opinion, for challenging for the top four. If they don't have the creativity within the midfield, they're not going to go anywhere.
well, this is the first time that I've heard someone have such strong feelings about Di Maria. But fair play, fair play.
I understand the argument Phil is trying to build for him moving to Arsenal. However, there's too much there that you kind of have to assume for it to actually work. And I don't think Arsenal is gonna roll the dice on an old player again. They've already done it once, it didn't pan out. Doing it a second time seems too risky for them. May I cite a team like AC Milan? They rolled the dice on Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but the AC Milan had no expectations, and that's something I mentioned prior. The different phases of the teams, and then the expectations. The expectations for Arsenal, especially from the fans, are pretty high, and I'm not sure rolling the dice on a guy that's 32, turning 33, for him to bring the spark that the midfield needs and kind of have the kind of impact that Zlatan has had on AC Milan, to them, nah. And especially given all the other problems that exist on the squad, I doubt it. But anyway, time to slide into the last player of the day. You guys
So excited for this.
might laugh at this one.
I just want to say, hold on, just in case anybody thinks we're joking about how shocked we are. I don't know if Omari actually mentioned to us who he's gonna present on. I didn't read it, like I didn't see it. So when he said Jesse Lingard
I
earlier,
did.
and I was shocked. Like that was genuine shock. Like I had no idea this was coming. So I just listened, and I'm very excited for this
Right.
one.
So I decided to choose that Jesse Lingard. Why? Because in my opinion, he's one of the guys with a lot of transfer rumors that are kind of going under the radar. Nobody's expecting anything of him, and that's because, like many Man United players over the past 4 to 5 years, he's been caught in no man's land. Um, he kind of just fell out of the team, drifted into oblivion, hasn't made it back into the squad. As a matter of fact, he hasn't had a Premier League appearance this season, and he appeared in the FA Cup for the first time since September last year, I believe. So there's absolutely no expectations from Jesse Lingard. However, several teams, a few in England and Inter Milan in Italy, that's also part of the reason why I decided to look at him. But as for the transfers, potential transfers in England, this Sheffield United currently suffering at the bottom of the table, looking for some spark to reignite their chances of dragging themselves out of the relegation zones. And they definitely believe that he is their man, because they've made it, well, not they've made it clear, but it's been in the ear for quite some time that he is a target for them. There's also Aston Villa rumors, Celtic as well, and Newcastle. But the other transfer that I really want to zero in on is Inter Milan. Now, I want you to hear me out, guys.
We're
Inter
all
Milan
here.
has Inter Milan has thus far managed to give a second chance to Romelu Lukaku, Alexis Sanchez, and Ashley Young. Ashley Young has had a great his first season with Inter was a great season. Yes, the season ended in disappointment in the Europa League, partially due to some mental breakdowns from the team. But he's had a season that no one expected him to have, fit in quite well with the team, and he's actually a regular starter. Alexis Sanchez came and actually started with a bang, but a few injuries affected his integration into the team. But he has a few appearances here and there, and he's not expected to be a talisman for Inter Milan anyway. And then, and need I say anything about Romelu Lukaku? He's the best striker in Italy, not named best attacker in Italy, not named Cristiano Ronaldo and probably Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So we've seen Inter Milan find a way to resuscitate some Man United players. Call it the graveyard if you want, but I think Jesse Lingard is the player that would be useful to Inter Milan's midfield. Inter Milan doesn't really need much besides another willing runner, because Conte has clearly made it clear, that Christian Eriksen isn't a good fit. And although initially he wanted him, now he wants him out. And that's the only hitch actually in Jesse Lingard to Inter Milan, is if they're unable to offload Ericsson, they definitely can't bring him into the team. But I think if he does come in, given that the team already has players like Barella, Sensi, etc., he's not going to walk into the starting lineup, but he's going to be that extra piece with lower expectations than he'd have at, say, a Sheffield United, where he's going to be expected to totally change that team or bring something totally different. I think that's probably the most comfortable destination for him. He's 28 years old. He's not particularly young, nor is he particularly old. So I think he's in a good area or time in his career where he kind of needs some time to figure things out, and slipping in with Inter, I think, is his best option. What say you?
This is it's kind of hard for me to talk about, honestly, because Jesse Lingard really hasn't been on the scene. Therefore, I really don't have much to say about him. I guess it's kind of the part of the problem, right? United, I mean, yeah, they have their own issues and everything, but they've dropped him for a reason. He hasn't been able to get a whiff of a starting spot in ages at this point. And I mean, you did mention Ericsson, and I guess that's kind of the main thing for me here. You know, Ericsson is an attacking midfielder that really didn't fit into Conte's setup at Inter, and I feel he is vastly more talented and experienced than Jesse Lingard, and they're around the same age. And you know, I struggle to see how Lingard in himself would be able to do what Ericsson was unable to do at Inter. And I also find it very difficult to compare, you know, the likes of Lukaku and maybe even, I guess, Sanchez to Lingard, because despite, you know, the fact that Sanchez didn't have a great spell at United, he still had some sort of an impact. Lukaku still scored goals for quite some time for them. You know, he put some sort of numbers up. Lukaku was never really what you would consider a finished player. And by no means am I saying that, you know, Lingard can't come back and that his career is finished. It's in a pretty sore state right now. But I personally feel like even with Inter's ability to resuscitate United players and bring them back to the fore, this one might be a bit of a stretch.
Fair enough.
I mean, Stretch is putting it nicely there.
I'm trying to be respectful here.
Nah, you guys can go in.
You know what?
I'm.
I'm
doesn't
used to
matter
being
me.
shredded for my allegiances, so I don't really want to
Nah,
do
go
that.
in,
know
go
what?
in, go all the way
You know
in.
what? You know, Omari, I can't imagine that. Like, you know, we both talked about this weekend that goal that Barella scored, and just in general how Barella, Sensi, and the rest of that midfield works and stuff like that. That you would still feel that there is room for a guy like Jesse Lingard at Inter. I think you're sort of fixated on the title charge, which is important for you because you know this is a Inter has a very very serious chance. So, because I was gonna say, why would you not just consider getting in a guy like Locatelli, where Locatelli now could be your linchpin in your midfield instead of a 65-year-old Vidal, and you could have Barella and Sensi do whatever they want in
65.
front of him, you know. But
Right.
I will say that the kind of player, if I had to describe the kind of player Antonio Conte likes, Jesse Lingard does have a lot of those features. He's a willing worker. He's a runner. You know, he's decent enough on the ball and he can dribble a little bit. He's not particularly great player, but Conte does have this ability of valuing workhorses and getting the most out of workhorses. And you know, if it's 2-0 and you're defending a lead tight in a game, you could just throw a body on. I could see the use of that. But I don't see, you see, the thing is, if you get Jesse Lingard in and you don't win the title, now you're kind of stuck with Jesse Lingard and not much to do with him because he isn't that great enough to be an impact player on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? So I like the idea where to have this group of Manchester United outcasts, and of course I feel like the environment to be a good fit for him, having those former teammates there to guide him and stuff like that. But I just think that there's better options out there than Jesse Lingard. I no disrespect to Jesse Lingard, but I feel like his career now is meant to be played out at a lower tier Premier League club, maybe even a championship club like a Brentford or something like that, you know. a loan to like or Watford or something of the sort. I just don't think he has what it takes to cut it, particularly for Manchester United, but just in the top 10 of the Premier League in general.
The Bundesliga has been good for Englishmen, so maybe he can go to like Bundesliga 2 or something.
No, Brian. No. No. No.
You pour cold water on that one, Phil.
No, because like I don't know. Watch, listen. Everybody's saying the only quality of Jesse Lingard that I hear that was highlighted to this point is that he's a willing runner.
Yeah, work rate. Yeah, work rate.
I'm a willing runner too. I could run. I mean, yeah, I could
So
run.
maybe Inter should sign you.
It's not really a good quality for you to be advanced. You could get one of your youths in your academy could run too. I'm sure you could get somebody like the Jesse Lingard's career has been absolute trash. The only reason that Jesse Lingard like even got little limelight is because he's English. Jesse Lingard best season he had 8 goals and
I believe it
five
was 8
assists.
goals. Yeah,
Now,
and 5
yeah,
assists. Yeah,
now you go ahead, right, and find any young up and coming player that get in. Watch, they got this guy from Stuttgart. What's his name? I can't remember his name, but he already come up to the Bundesliga and he got 6 goals and 2 assists. So
right.
he already almost matched Lingard's best career return numbers. And I'm very sure that it would be easier to get that player from Stuttgart to Inter Milan than you going ahead and you basically raising up an ants nest with Jesse Lingard. The only reason I would even take Jesse Lingard on any team that I support is if
Mhm.
he's actually going to be a willing runner for like carry on water or something. Like seriously, the only quality that people actually get. I
But
don't
Mike,
know. Omari, you alright with it? Like everything
Nah,
alright with you?
Mike,
nah,
not
nah.
to cut you off. The player's name is Nicolas Gonzalez, and he's more of a win. Well, I guess he's a
But
bit more
this
of a
this
forward.
Lingard position, I
It's
think
the same thing.
is it easy?
I thought he was more of a striker,
Omari,
or like a right
Omari,
winger.
Omari was Lingard position. Omari was
We don't
Lingard
even know.
position. Was
That
He's
Lingard
like
position.
he's like well, I'm not
Left
saying
bench
he
or
does it.
something.
No, no, I'm not saying he does it well. But when he does play, I believe he's like an advanced 8, like not exactly a 10, but he does play like
yeah,
a
an
box to
advanced
box
eight.
midfielder per se, but
No
more
Yeah,
like
man,
an
nah.
advanced 8.
I believe he's more of a winger, like a winger attacking midfielder. I
He ain't got no,
believe.
he
he
doesn't
ain't
have
got
he
no
doesn't
kind
have
of,
that he doesn't have that wing of
he doesn't
pace,
have that
bro.
change of pace though to be a
Yeah, but
winger. Yeah,
that is why he's a failed winger because he really got a lot to offer. This I don't believe it
And
because
his
the type
defense
of
isn't
player
particularly great either.
exactly he doesn't like seriously he doesn't have anything to offer. The only watch you know which system he actually had success in Jose Mourinho system. You know why that happened? Because Jose Mourinho like when you were running, this was Jose Mourinho like, and
True.
he actually had the opportunity because the thing is it with United wing that I believe that was a position I remember him playing is that Jose wanted them to be very compact so the defense would be solid. And this is why the United fans had problem with him because a lot they had very expansive attacking players, but the attacking players could not do that because Jose wanted to help to shield the defense. And Jose said
Right.
that the reason why he was doing that is because the defense was trash. So he had to get the numbers back for help out. And that was Lingard was willing to run between the lines and thing. And the thing is, it when you in a system like that, even self you just go back and you just make a number, you ain't got tackle or nothing. You create a problem for the offense of the next team, and that was what he was doing well. So
Right.
with all that being said, Lingard for Inter Milan at this point in time, I don't think it would make a lot of sense. I I don't think it would make a lot of sense. Ericsson has way more qualities than Jesse Lingard, and
Right. And
Ericsson didn't do well in the system. And it's not like if Ericsson does actually move between the lines, as in like he would actually run from attack to defense and so on constantly. So it's not
right.
like if Ericsson was limited in that type of situation, and Ericsson could do so much more. 'Cause Ericsson is a very good creator, very good at dead ball situations, and like
Right.
those are things that Jesse Lingard doesn't even have. So is mind-boggling that you think. But listen to me, Inter right now they just want somebody to create a little more in the midfield. They didn't find in Ericsson. I believe like somebody of the mold of like a Paredes or so would actually help you guys out in this current situation. I'm
Right.
trying to
Well,
No,
think like
well,
who would actually.
that's kind of why I brought up Locatelli, because Locatelli's been kind of killing it right now for Sassuolo. So like a player like him, I can see if you put him at the base of the midfield, who could play the line, break him, pass him deep. You have Sensi and Barella then free to do whatever the hell they want to do at that point. You know?
right. Um,
I don't one more thing before Omari comes in. I don't really understand what Inter is actually doing. Like when you actually look at Inter, what direction that they're actually going in. Because one time they're looking very young, like they're pulling in a lot of young players, and then they're getting extremely old people, like Vidal.
yeah, there's a
You
gap there, right? I
Yeah, and
agree.
then
I
not
can
even
explain it, but there's a
Alexis
gap there. Yes.
Sanchez. Alexis Sanchez is an agent player, and he's supposed to be on fairly high wages. And though that is the thing, you could actually
Man
look.
United is paying his wages. We're not paying his wages.
Y'all ain't paying nothing at all.
Nope.
Y'all got to be paying something. Why United
Let
really
me let me
like him?
double check that.
United really like him too. But anyhow, this is it for me. You could go in and say what you do want to say.
Right. So as it relates to the entire age gap situation, yes, the team it is a huge cliff, not cliff, sorry, a huge valley between the oldest players on the team and the youngest players on the team. And I'm not too sure why that is, but one of the primary reasons I can't give is the crazy minder Antonio Conte. When he came, he made it clear that he wanted experience. That he was raving about experience. That's why he brought in guys like Alexis Sanchez, like an Arturo Vidal, who has been hit and miss for the team, I must add. However, some of his hits have been absolutely fantastic, like his role in the recent victory over Juventus. As for the younger players, haven't had the opportunity to fully integrate guys like Pinamonte, Agume, who we had to loan off, and even the goalkeeper Stankovic. And that's because there's heavy expectations on the team. The team has been just hovering around that that area where we can kind of see that there's potential to win, but we haven't quite gotten there. You had the entire fiasco with Mauro Icardi, and then an Icardi-sized hole was left in the team. Basically, the striker, who along with Ivan Perisic was accounting for three-quarters of the team's goals. Then Perisic was sent off, for one season to Bayern, and the team was in total disarray. And somehow Conte's crazy plan seems to have brought some sort of sanity, as oxymoronic as that sounds. So why I consider the Jesse Lingard transfer interesting. And yes, it's partly because, as Shevin said, I'm kind of fixated on that title charge because that's pretty much all the season has left in it for Inter. The fans are definitely not going to be satisfied with a Coppa Italia win. That literally means nothing to the club. It's all about getting the Scudetto, especially given that we finished 1 point. We lost it by 1 point essentially last season. So that's the primary focus, obviously, for the club. And for me, what I was thinking with the Jesse Lingard transfer is that, yes, a guy like Locatelli could certainly work within the midfield if you put him at the back there. But for some reason, especially given that there hasn't been any major rumors about other midfielders to enter, and given the issue with Ericsson, if we don't move him, we literally can't bring someone else. There's also Conte made it clear that when Vecino is healthy, he is going to be back in the squad. And Vecino actually was a great piece for Conte. You can reference his performances against Dortmund in the Champions League last season, and then some of his big games versus teams like AC Milan and Napoli as well last season. So I think that it's not a lot for a lack of pieces. I just think Conte wants some low cost insurance. Jesse Lingard might be that guy, especially given the fact that Lukaku and Ashley Young, I believe, were talking him up. I believe that's also why the rumors were drummed up. So it's kind of just following the theme and narrative of the Man United rejects coming to Inter. Yes, it is a bit left field, but I thought it was something crazy enough to consider. But I have to concede you guys' primary point that his career hasn't been that stellar. He doesn't offer a whole lot, and he might just be better off going to a lower tier, a lower level English club like a Sheffield United to play out the rest of his days. Maybe that is best, but I don't know. I think there's something to be had there, and it would be one hell of a story. But it certainly is a bit too early to call.
It would definitely be one hell of a story, and I'm sure Manchester United fans will take heart in the fact that a club considers Jesse Lingard as title insurance, especially considering that they're at the top of the table right now. So I guess we'll see how that goes. We'll
Hey,
see
but
how that
Omari,
goes.
That's a good point.
Omari, one thing is ever Benega's situation currently, because I think like with what you guys actually want, he fits a lot of these things. Number one, he's old. Number two, he's very creative. Number three, he's a very willing runner. So like, I think he would actually be somebody who y'all could try to see if y'all can. He old, so
Well,
he needs
yeah,
to
and
be
he's been an
better.
interplayer before.
Yeah,
He's
and
been an
this the thing
interplayer
because
before.
this were looking at he was like they're the right player at the wrong time. So I don't know if what will
And he was
happen.
also the reason we lost the Europa League
Yeah,
final, but
yeah, the
that's a
guy
story for another
outsmart the
day.
Alto. So yeah,
Draw foul, set piece, draw foul, set piece for like 40 times. That was an annoying final to watch, but hey, what you gonna do?
All right, all right. Well, it's been really interesting discussion, guys. Thank you for getting on this pod and talking about all these interesting topics. We learned a lot about Jesse Lingard, which I think is really great because it's it's not something I really expected to talk so much about, but
Hey,
it's
we have to
every
have
new
fun, man.
experience is a good. Oh, not well, maybe not every new experience, but this was a good new experience for me. So let's sign off with our socials.
You guys can catch me on Twitter. It's my first name Shevin _141.
yeah. So you can catch me on Twitter too, Phil's World 003.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, practically any social media except Reddit at the Unspecialist.
And you can find me on Twitter at Brian E Media 1. So once again, thank you guys for being on the pod, and we look forward to recording the next one. Take care.
Peace.
We out.